Welcome to Success Your Own Way, a podcast about how real people define and redefine success throughout their careers. Hosted by Tina Shurick and Ifat Rogers, this show features candid conversations with guests who've made intentional choices, navigated change, and built lives aligned to their values. Their guests share their stories as well as strategies and tactics that help them along the way. Tina's a certified coach and a former corporate leader who supports professionals in making confident, values-driven decisions. Ifat is a consultant with a background in food science and engineering, helping people solve complex problems with a practical, no-nonsense approach. Each episode offers inspiration and actionable insights for anyone rethinking what success looks like in their life and how to get there.
Welcome everyone to our episode of Success Your Own Way. We have a very special guest today, Chris Nowakowski, and you're going to get to learn a lot about her and her story. So I'm going to turn it over to Ifat to introduce Chris.
Yes, I'm very excited. Chris and I worked together for a few years at General Mills. Dr. Christine Nowakowski is a corporate fellow at Cargill and a food scientist with over 25 years of experience at Conagra, General Mills, and Cargill. She is one of General Mills' top female inventors with more than 100 patents and publications and has earned multiple awards. Her research in sugar and salt reduction has shaped products like Fiber One, Progresso Soup, and Nature Valley. At Cargill, Christine leads global collaboration in bakery and chocolate and connects industry with academia. She also serves as an adjunct professor at the University of Minnesota and is deeply committed to mentorship, supporting veterans through America Corporate Partners, and guiding food entrepreneur worldwide. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you.
Excited.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks
Chris,
for having me.
you have an amazing story. It took me actually a long time to shorten the bio. So please tell us more about your experience, your journey. How did you get where you are?
Well, I like to say I took the scenic route. And mostly I just followed things that interested me. I came from parents who didn't go to college, so first generation college student. So I really kind of made it up as I went along. And one of the things was I had always loved science. So when I was watching Star Trek as a child, I always wanted to be Spock. I wanted to be the science officer on a starship. And so I needed to make that more actionable. And everything in science was interesting to me. I liked physics and chemistry and engineering and everything. And so I got my bachelor's in medical microbiology.
Okay.
Went to the local college, did that. And then I was like, well, that's okay, but that's not terribly interesting to just sit in the lab and doing blood culture stuff. And so then I went to work in a nutrition department in Madison. And I used that year to just figure out what did I want to do, because I wanted to go to grad school. And so my boss at the time, she said, well, have you ever heard of food science? And I never did. And so I walked over there, and what I figured out about food is that it was practical, and I liked that aspect of it. And more importantly to me, maybe, was that I didn't have to choose anymore between physics and chemistry and engineering. I could do all of those anytime and combinations. And so I got my master's in food microbiology so that I could leverage all those micro classes I took. And then after that, I was like, well, actually, I kind of don't like microbes because they take a long time to grow and they're kind of unpredictable. And I had realized as I got my first job at Conagra that it mostly put me in quality assurance, and that just wasn't creative enough for me. And so I thought, I'm not done yet. So I went back to school, and this time I'm like, it is not microbiology. And so I thought, but again, what do I have the credits for? Chemistry. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do my doctorate in food chemistry with a micro and biochem. And so then I did that and ended up working on a project that was more physics and engineering, which was kind of interesting because Rich Hartel is my advisor for my doctorate. And he had met me back when I was in the nutrition department. And he was like, oh, this is going to be great. And, I've got the perfect project for you. And he's like, it's a shelf life project. And I thought, okay, I could probably do that. And I was thinking microbes, shelf life spoilage. No, he meant crystallization, like physical, like end of shelf life. So this is one of those things where, I just didn't know enough to ask like pointed questions. I just sort of floated in and had a great time with him. Still collaborate and talk to him every week or so. And learned a lot about engineering and physics from the guy. And turns out that I really like food physics.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you've had such an interesting academic career. I know also a wonderful corporate career. You do some work with the veterans. Tell us how your definition of success has changed over time as you've gone from your academics to your corporate to volunteer work and all of the things that you're involved in. When you think about how you defined it, has it changed? And if so, how?
I think what's changed is maybe not success, but what is a career? That definition changed pretty abruptly as, here I had spent several decades at General Mills, and I had kind of hit a doldrums, a corporate doldrums where, I was still making good money, had decent work-life balance, and still doing interesting things, but no promotion. And this is like the sad story of like, oh, I went 12 years without a promotion. And most people would not define that as success. Most people would say, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you find another job?
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized that my job is not my career. It's just a part of my career. And once that aha moment hit me, I started to think, well, there's a lot of things that General Mills, this corporate life, is giving me. It's giving me stable income. It's giving me the work-life balance. What are the other parts of career that I need to build? And that's actually when I started adjuncting and getting more involved in the university. And I also started to do more volunteering. And the reason why I was looking more at volunteering was that that's a great place to practice new skills.
Sure.
In a low risk environment. So then I was doing Partners in Food Solutions. And then I decided to take a more responsibility role in that space. And then mentoring others also helped me sort of talk to myself a bit. And as I was helping others, many other people were like helping me like, oh, did you hear of this resource? Did you hear of that resource? And so then I was getting training through like American Corporate Partners about how to be a good mentor to help people. In that role, I mostly work with people who are separating from the military and entering civilian life. So how do you even define those skills that are defined in military terms and then translate that into civilian terms? And by actually ripping things down to the fundamentals, I started to think about how I define myself.
Sure.
And so that's how career and success started to like shift.
Yeah.
And then serendipity sort of showed up where I got a promotion completely out of the blue. But that's kind of how that happened.
Isn't that funny how you put society's definitions on yourself? So in the moment you're like 12 years without a promotion, this doesn't feel successful, yet you found so much success and fulfillment by doing other things. It was like you almost needed that, 12 years of not feeling super successful to push you into something that actually fills you and actually creates value for so many other people.
Yep.
That's just amazing, and how life works. It's been a little bit of a theme for us as we've been meeting people.
Oh,
so
good.
Yeah. You're not alone.
Great. Well, that is reality, isn't it? Because like on paper, it all like sounds great. Like the intro is like, wow, I want to meet that person. And that's the thing where there's real life and then there's simulation of real life. And that's the stuff that we read and see in through video and stuff like that.
Completely.
So, yeah.
I love kind of how it's almost like I heard myself when you talked about transferring the language from the military world to the civilian world, and then how you went through the exercise of almost simplifying, which helped you reflect on your own process, which is something that just happened to me a few weeks ago. I was at Duke University helping with a product design class. And I got to the class and I was like, well, I can talk about this thing all day long. I mean, this is what I've done for 3.5 years. And I stand there in front of the students and they look 12. And I'm just like, I can't use any of the terminology I use with corporate clients. They just don't know. So in the moment, I had to kind of like recalibrate and very quickly kind of do the assessment of almost going back to first principles and explaining everything from the beginning. So very like a similar experience and just how stepping back sometimes really help not only clarify and be able to communicate it better, but for ourselves to reevaluate and simplify. So
Yeah,
to
very well
really
said.
relate to that. You mentioned mentors, so a little bit. Tell us more about who your mentors are. What attributes do they bring?
So mentors are super important. And there are mentors that you're going to have for life, and then there are those that you sort of pulse in and then pulse out. So it really just depends. But I would say Rich Hartel has been a great mentor. And what's interesting is that we've always just talked business.
Huh.
Strangely enough, like I had said, like I still talk to the guy like once a week, but it's like I know how many kids he has and that he has grandkids, but I really don't know that much about him personally because we've always talked about sucrose crystallization kinetics and we get very excited about that.
Doesn't.
I know, and time just flies. So he's one mentor. I think of other mentors. It's usually people who think of things in different ways than I do, and they'll bring a different perspective. And they can come from all places. So many times they can be my mentees, where I learned so much from like my mentees or people who are my students at the time. So just like your Duke University experience, you're just like, ooh, and now you're talking to yourself in the back of the head saying, okay, I have to like recalibrate everything and how I think about things. And so it's those types of experiences. I would say family members are been really, really good. So like my brother Steve was one that was a really early mentor where, I remember when I was really little and he decided to teach me about how blood coagulates. Oh. Now, normally you wouldn't really think of like teaching a 5-year-old that. I must have been around 5-ish or so. But, him being, 6 years older than me, of course, that sounds like a great idea. So I learned so much from my brothers, but I still remember Steve always taking extra time to talk about science things to me. So those would be 2 examples. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're amazing. But I love talking about mentors because they make such a huge impact on our lives. They really help shape us and help guide how we make decisions, right? I mean, I'm guessing that I'm actually picturing how he taught you about blood coagulation, and it's making me a little queasy. But on that note, so as you think back to your amazing career and your engagement with these mentors, is there a decision that you made that you're thinking, that one really changed the course of my life or really set me on a different path than I was headed?
Oh, wow. Well, other than my aha moment, I think one of the maybe a recent example is my decision to retire from General Mills and join Cargill. So I was actually retired for a Saturday and a Sunday.
Okay.
And then
that wasn't working for you.
I started work full time on Monday, and that terrified me because it's so easy and so comfortable. I went to the same building for the last 23 and a half years. I could have cruised to the end. It would have been fine. But I wanted to try something different. And here I am after all these years going into another large corporation with its very different culture, privately owned company versus a public company. So the dynamics of the business is different. Just the focus of the business is different, where it's more ingredients and commodities. And here I am, the new person, terrified, absolutely terrified.
I can imagine.
And so, but I did that. And then about a year and a half-ish into Cargill, there's this opportunity. They had opened up their corporate fellow positions again. And
Can you explain to Diana just quickly what a corporate fellow is?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. What is that? That's good philosophy. But corporate fellows tend to be, depending again on the company, but in general, it's a person who has been recognized as a subject matter expert, someone who is recognized outside of the corporation as a subject matter expert, that has contributed to the body of knowledge that has, whatever the success criteria of that business is, or that corporation is, that they've demonstrated success there. So my patents, my book chapters that I teach at the university, that I've had grad students, undergrad students, that I've launched a bunch of products and things like that. So all of that stuff kind of creates that dossier for success. And so, but it's very hard to get a corporate fellow position. It's probably easier to get a vice presidency, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, it's someone who has been in the company for a very long time, not somebody who's been around for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so, but I decided to apply for it because I thought, wow, I always wanted to be the chief science officer on a starship. I want to be a corporate fellow.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what the heck? I'm still terrified. I'll just be more terrified. And so I asked my boss, could I even apply? Because usually that's just rude, and he's like, well, I don't know, but they tried something new, which is really cool. They have associate fellows, which is a new idea. So it's a way to recognize people, and it's a way to sort of distribute the recognition a bit. And so I was like, well, okay, then I've got nothing to lose.
Sure.
Really. And so I put together my packet and everything like that. And I did my best. 7 minutes. That was the whole interview.
Whoa.
I know. One slide for who I am, one slide for what I've done, and then one slide for what I'm going to do. And so I got it.
That's amazing.
Who knew? And so that is also terrifying. But maybe that's the theme. It's like, well, if you're terrified, maybe that's a good clue.
It's a really good thing.
That maybe you're doing the right thing. Or maybe I'm just a coward at heart, and I still do it. So I went along, and now corporate fellow, what I'm trying to do with this role is a few things. One is be the fly on the wall in those leadership meetings, because usually leadership type meetings that are moving like the R&D direction are managed by like people managers, which is awesome. But when was the last time they were on the bench or in a plant?
Right.
I mean, bless their hearts, it's been a while.
Right.
And so like being that voice to say, well, that sounds great on paper, but really it's not going to work when you've got these choices to make. And so I want to influence there at that level. The other thing I want to do is I'm on this kick lately for the last year or two, is I want to empower technical people to have a stronger voice in leadership. So technical leadership is really important. And I look at our education system and I see, like at the undergraduate level in particular, but also at the graduate level, we teach people their technical subject matter.
Yeah.
So like, you're going to learn about chemistry and physics and engineering and all those things. You are not taught how to be in a business meeting and influence others. And so I'm bringing in classes along with some of my friends at the university, like Yo Ubink and George Inor, so that we can have like more technical leadership skills. Like even if you have a great scientific idea, how do you entice people within the company to fund you so that it can become something real? And so those are the skills that I'm focusing on lately for technical people.
Which kind of, I'll go back a little bit to the mentorship conversation and how you mentioned managers of people at some point are too far from the people that report to them or really understand what the work that's done. So I always recommend to managers of people, especially if they've been doing it for a long time, got to have a couple of mentors that are junior scientists, people that can really share their pain points. When you were on the bench, the teams were 40 people, so you had this much to do and you were really able to focus on it. Now that's no longer the case, and you really need to reset expectations and what's happening now. Having a mindset of what it was 20 years ago when you might have been on the bench is at this point irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a huge skill. I mean, everybody's a salesperson, right? I mean, everybody has to sell their ideas. Some are selling products, some are selling services, but everybody's got to sell their ideas. And the ability to communicate and share those ideas and get people bought in and excited about them, I think, especially for tech, we're all technical people, engineering backgrounds and whatnot. That's a really unique skill for somebody to be able to bring both. So I just applaud you for bringing those skills to the university and to corporate America, because that is maybe the secret sauce of continuing to remain competitive, especially when everything is just getting so, mired in technology, and technology is changing so fast. Your ability to communicate and relate to other people just becomes even more important to get your great ideas out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris, we covered one of the misconceptions. Well, I don't know if we call it misconception, around what career looks like. Kind of taking the step back. Were there other misconceptions or similar things that you kind of had an aha moment and said, this held me back? And here is how you validated or what's the word I'm looking for? Either you validated or not some of those misconceptions. Do you have another one?
I think fear is probably one. So being completely out of my element, like I said, parents did not have a career like mine.
Yeah.
Probably the other thing is, although my parents didn't do this, but my husband's parents, they would give career advice, and not so much to me, but certainly to my husband. And there was one point where I had said, why are you taking career advice from people who've actually never had a career?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, they've had jobs and, great people and stuff like that, but, they never had to work a boardroom. They never had to influence people, make, I don't know how many PowerPoints. If I had a nickel for every PowerPoint, I'll be rich.
I'm triggered.
But it's just a different world. And so there's that. And then I would say when I was younger, I cared a lot about what other people thought.
Yeah.
And so then I would sort of be quiet because I didn't want to say anything wrong. And as I got older, I kind of cared a lot less. And so I started talking about stuff, and even stuff if it wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people started to see me and sort of recognize something in me that resonated with them. And then I was like, oh, I don't think I'm quite as weird as I thought I was. Or maybe I'm just sort of an acceptable kind of different. So that was the thing where I wish I would have had the courage to speak up more when I was younger, especially being a female. It's very easy to get talked over. And I get kind of mad at myself about, like, why did you let those people like drive us in the wrong direction that you knew it wasn't going to be a good direction? And then here we lost like 6 months on a project when, but
when you knew it and you could have spoken up and just have that courage.
Yeah.
I think that's been a common theme. It's we talked, I think I talked in one of my episodes about imposter syndrome, and I'm actually going to do a webinar on that as well. And I think that is such a common and unfortunate thing, especially for women, to feel when they're perfectly qualified. They've earned that right to be there. They've got the credentials, and there's just that fear holding them back when they, really the organization needs you to speak up. That is so critical.
Yeah.
And the point that you made also about how as you were getting older, you started to care less. And as you were talking, I was reflecting, maybe I had to wait to be 40, 3 years ago, however old I was, to leave corporate and start my own consulting business, because I'm starting to not care and wanted to express exactly what I thought and really be a thought leader in a way that I felt I can do this now, but the not caring may not work as well in the corporate environment. So I kind of took myself out of it to be able to kind of show, I'm more confident now with my opinions and things, and I'm my own boss. So
That feels even better. doesn't
Yes,
it?
that feels even better. Like no one can like, yes, I'm a woman and a business owner. So
Yeah. Yep. Yes,
love
and that took a lot of courage too.
And you know what? We talked about imposter syndrome, and I had to shorten your bio a little bit. And then at the end, you said, oh, the bio was interesting. I'm actually going to go through the exercise and rewrite my bio
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
see what it looks like because the bio is facts. You can't argue with that.
Absolutely.
I always
Yeah.
joke that imposter syndrome is a bit ironic because everyone around you is saying that you're amazing.
Yeah.
That you're smart, but you don't feel that.
Mhm.
If you don't feel that, you're really telling all of the people around you that are very smart and you respect that they are wrong and you are actually right. With that perspective, is it imposter syndrome?
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could philosophize
Yes.
on that, I think, for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
But for time, I want to get a little bit more into your work with veterans, and maybe we can kind of tie it almost to the last question, which we always ask, which is around tips and advice for those who are in early, mid, or late career achieving how they achieve their definition of success. And I was hoping you can give us a little bit of the angle from the veterans and some of the things that you do with them and some of the exercises.
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
one exercise that our listeners can be like, yeah, I'm not a veteran, but this is
Still
amazing.
applies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so American Corporate Partners, I've been with them for years. I typically, because of my skill set, which is a little unique, usually the mentors to veterans are people who are in businesses, small businesses, because you have like your GI Bill and you want to use it to either like create a new business or something like that.
Okay.
My specialty is to help people who might want to retool and go to school, like grad school. And my job is to help them translate because not only is there a different language in the world of business, there's a different language in academia,
Yes.
and also how people react to things. And so helping them navigate that, and usually many of them want to go into graduate school. So I talk to them about what are some of the options because they may just know like the big names of like, I want to get an MBA or I want to get a degree in engineering or something like that. And maybe their skills are more unique. And so I help them kind of pause and help them talk to themselves a bit. So my specialty is also to keep them away from predatory either programs. There are uncertified programs, and like what are the kinds of certifications that programs might need just because it's a university that's maybe advertising on TV, or if they may even have some advertisement in military journals and publications. That doesn't necessarily mean that that program is certified, and certification is really important, especially if you want to use that degree for other things. And so that's kind of what I do. And then the other thing is, how do you even go about getting into school? How do you ask for a letter of recommendation? So all of those things, and talking through things. And then how do you know if the person that you talk to in academia is very interested or not interested? Because people in academia, if sometimes when they're like wildly excited about someone, they'll say, "Oh, that's very interesting." Well, I'll have to consider that.
Mhm.
And so then I would hear back from my mentees. They're like, "Well, they're not interested." I go, "Oh, no, they are wildly interested. That was it."
This was excitement.
Yeah. And so because in the military, yes is yes and no is no. It's very clear.
Black and white.
And so the nuances, because there is no yes and no in academia. I mean, you're hard pressed to find that in anybody there. So it's always conditional, the yeses and the nos. So how do they navigate that? And so one of the tools I use a lot is a book called Beyond the Military. And I use this book with other people who aren't in the military. Now, yes, it's written from a military point of view, but what I like about it is it's a workbook. It has like homework.
Yeah.
And so if you actually work with that book step by step, you'll be able to talk to yourself, because that's all it is really. We all probably kind of know where we might want to go. but there's a lot of the self-talk, like the imposter syndrome is a self-talk that when you actually like try to dig into it, the logic loop isn't there. It's a broken logic loop, but you don't really have enough time often to just sit down and go, well, let me think about my broken logic loop. So this way you get to talk to yourself. And the other tool I like to use is StrengthsFinders, because it's very positive. It helps you identify what your like talents are. It's also really insightful that it tells you that there are all sorts of different people with different talents, and that other people perceive life very differently. And it's the collective, it's these types of conversations that actually make us far more than the sum of the parts. And so those are some of the tools that I like to use, and I use those actually in classes as well. So, but that's pretty much it. And I help people like write their resumes, and resume writing has been very different. And honestly, ChatGPT has been
Write it for you.
well, very helpful. But you know, even just very simple things, like one of the things I had talked to a mentee about was the power of the word thank you, or the phrase thank you. And you know, there were these job fairs, and just again explaining like someone's going to make a decision on your resume based on less than 4 seconds. And whether they see you or not. So the first thing is have them take your resume, make the eye contact, have a 2-minute speech, and then even crank that down to 10 seconds. Describe yourself in 10 seconds. And so I usually will start people with write about yourself, kind of like what you said, the bio. Just write and write and write and write and write. And then edit. Don't try to write and edit at the same time. You have to like do the separate jobs. And then just keep cranking it down and cranking it down and cranking it down. And then eventually you will get to your elevator speech. And so I had a mentee do that. And then he had, I said, the power of thank you. And so he was the one that had gone back to everybody that he had made contact with at the job fair and said, well, thank you for your time. And that is what got him the interview, because he was the only person in that fair that thanked someone, and then he got the job. So
isn't that telling? That's something so simple. And you know, on that note, thank you and gratitude. That is something that we are asking our guests. From your perspective too, what are you grateful for?
Oh, wow. So much. I think my family is great. Not only my nuclear family, but my extended family, my brothers and sister-in-laws and the nieces and the nephews and the people in my sort of what I call the village of friends and things like that. So the collective is very helpful, and I'm thankful for them. You know, I think I learned so much from my students, from my daughter and her friends, and my husband. What's interesting is the younger generation is looking for people that are like them, you know, like if you've heard like the apps and things like that. And I keep saying, why would you want to do that? I mean, yes, you want to have someone that has the same like fundamentals, like the same like values. But my husband sees things very differently than I do, and I rely implicitly on that difference. And he does the same with me. And so between the two of us, it's almost like, do I have, you know, sort of straightforward vision, or do I have flanking visions? And that's the part that I think is, you know, really fascinating. And then here's my daughter, who has another point of view, and as she's getting older, she's like, oh, okay, I can kind of see that now. But we'll see, you know, how that adventure ends up. You never know what the next chapter will bring.
Never do.
So
that's a great stopping point for today. Thanks everyone for listening to us. Please download this episode and other episodes. Also, you can catch us on YouTube, subscribe, watch, and please share this episode with everyone who might find this inspiring. I know that I have a lot to think about and some homework to do after
Yeah.
this. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was
Christine.
great fun. Thanks for
It was
thinking
a
of
lot. I
me.
told you it was going to be.
Yeah.
So the main reason I miss catching Christine on the stairway at James Ford Bell, which is the technical building, talking about how we can get junior scientists to understand food chemistry. So I just missed that, so I wanted to have her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you did. Thanks
Yeah,
to you
thank
both.
you.
It was great to meet you, Chris,
Yeah.
and thank you, Yvette. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you for joining us on Success Your Own Way. We hope you found this episode inspiring and took away actionable insights. Please tune in for our next episode. And if you know someone who is rethinking what success looks like in their life, please share this episode with them.